Am I wrong for refusing to co-sign my fiancé's car loan? I keep replaying that question in my head, late at night when the house is silent, when the weight of my choices presses down on me like a physical force. I never thought I'd be here, on the brink of a lifetime commitment, yet feeling like I'm standing alone on a cliff, staring at the consequences of saying no. My fiancé, Mark, is a good man in many ways. Charming, affectionate, funny, the kind of guy people like instantly. But beneath the surface, there's a recklessness I hadn't fully grasped until recently. A pattern of financial decisions that left me questioning not just our future together, but my own judgment. It started a few months ago when Mark casually mentioned he wanted to buy a new car. I thought at first it was innocent. He had been driving a 10-year-old sedan, and I figured, okay, maybe he deserves something nicer. But then came the caveat. He couldn't get the loan on his own because his credit score had taken a hit from some past mistakes, and he needed me to co-sign. I remember the first time he asked, sitting across from me at the kitchen table, his hands nervously fidgeting with a coffee mug. "It's just until I rebuild my credit," he said, looking at me with those wide, pleading eyes. "I swear I'll handle the payments. I just need your signature to make it happen." Something inside me recoiled. I've always been responsible with money, always careful about credit, debt, and long-term obligations. And yet here was Mark, asking me to assume legal responsibility for something I had no control over, something that could put my financial future at risk. I didn't say anything right away. I remember staring down at my own hands, thinking about the lease on my apartment, my student loans, my emergency savings. I thought about all the things that could go wrong if I co-signed: missed payments, default, a ruined credit score. I thought about the life we were planning together and the foundation I wanted to build. A foundation that required trust, yes, but also accountability. The conversation lingered in my mind for days. I tried to rationalize it. He's my fiancé. He's responsible now. Maybe this is just a temporary hurdle. But every scenario I played out ended with me bearing the brunt of someone else's financial risk. I spoke to my best friend Sarah late one night, venting my frustration. I feel like if I say no, I'm being unreasonable. But if I say yes, I could ruin my own financial stability. How do you even navigate that? She was silent for a moment, then said, "You're not wrong. You're protecting yourself. That's not selfish. It's smart." Her words offered some comfort, but the real challenge was facing Mark. When I finally sat him down, I tried to be gentle but firm. "I can't co-sign your loan, Mark. It's not because I don't trust you. I do. But I have to protect my financial future. Co-signing is a huge risk, and it's not something I can take on, even for you." His reaction was immediate and intense. I had expected disappointment, maybe frustration, but not the sudden storm that erupted. "You don't believe in me," he shouted, pacing the living room. "After everything we've planned, everything we've talked about, you're supposed to be my partner, and you won't even help me when I need it." I felt my chest tighten. His words cut deep, not because they were untrue, but because they framed my responsible decision as a personal failure, as if refusing to co-sign meant I didn't care about him or our future. I tried to explain, my voice shaking. "It's not about belief, Mark. It's about risk. Co-signing is legally binding. If something goes wrong, it affects me directly. I'm trying to be a responsible partner, not an enabler of financial mistakes." But he didn't hear me. He left the apartment that night slamming the door, and I sat alone, heart racing, stomach in knots, wondering if I had just made the biggest mistake of my life. Over the next week, things were tense. Mark barely spoke to me, and when he did, it was with a bitter edge that made my skin crawl. I tried to reach out, to have calm conversations about the decision, but every attempt seemed to escalate into an argument. My own doubt began to creep in. Was I being unreasonable? Was love supposed to mean taking risks for each other, even if those risks were huge? "It just feels like you don't trust me," he muttered. "I'm trying, but it's not enough for you." I reached out, placing my hand over his. "I do trust you. I believe you're capable of doing this. But trusting you doesn't mean I should risk my own financial stability. Love isn't about reckless faith. It's about making sure both of us are secure." That night we stayed up late, talking through our fears, our frustrations, and our dreams. I shared my anxiety about co-signing, about the potential consequences if things went wrong. He admitted the shame he felt about his credit history, about the mistakes he had made, and how humbling it was to realize that he couldn't always rely on someone else to fix his problems. In those hours, I saw a side of him that was vulnerable, raw, and real. It was a side that didn't ask for handouts or shortcuts, but a side that desperately wanted to grow and take responsibility. We devised a plan. Mark would take steps to rebuild his credit, starting with paying off smaller debts, disputing errors on his report, and budgeting rigorously. I would support him emotionally and practically, offering guidance and encouragement, but without assuming financial liability. The agreement felt like a compromise, a middle ground that respected both our boundaries and our shared goals. But the real challenge wasn't in the logistics. It was in navigating the emotional fallout. There were days when he would bring up the car, subtly testing the waters, seeing if I had softened. There were moments when my patience was stretched thin, and I would feel the familiar pang of guilt for not doing more, for not taking on the burden to make his life easier. I had to remind myself constantly, this wasn't about being unkind or selfish. It was about responsibility, foresight, and maintaining the integrity of our relationship. The turning point came when Mark secured a small personal loan on his own, with a slightly higher interest rate than he would have gotten with a co-signer, but without involving me legally. When he called me to tell me the news, his voice was shaky, a mix of pride and relief. "I did it," he said. "I can't believe I did it on my own, but I did." I felt a swell of emotion, pride, relief, and love. "I knew you could," I said, tears welling up. "I never doubted your ability, even if I couldn't co-sign. You did this for yourself, and that's the kind of strength I admire." That moment marked a shift in our dynamic. The tension that had lingered for months began to lift, replaced by a renewed sense of partnership and respect. Mark had faced the challenge independently, and I had held my ground without compromising my boundaries. Together, we had navigated a difficult, emotionally charged situation without sacrificing our relationship or our principles. Over the following months, our relationship strengthened. We learned to communicate more openly about finances, expectations, and responsibilities. I became more aware of my own triggers, the moments when guilt or fear might cloud my judgment. Mark became more accountable, more proactive, and more considerate of the implications of his choices. We grew together, not by taking the easy path, but by confronting challenges head-on and supporting each other in responsible ways. There were still moments of friction, of course, financial stress, lingering doubts, and occasional frustration, but these moments were tempered by the lessons we had learned. We had developed a language of trust, respect, and honest communication that allowed us to navigate conflicts without escalating into resentment or blame. Reflecting on this experience, I realize now that refusing to co-sign was not just a financial decision, it was a test of character, both for myself and for Mark. It revealed our values, our priorities, and our capacity for honesty and resilience. It taught me that love is not about blindly taking risks for each other, but about supporting growth, maintaining boundaries, and fostering mutual respect. It taught Mark that responsibility is empowering, not burdensome, and that independence can strengthen a relationship rather than weaken it. And most importantly, it taught me that integrity and love can coexist, even in the most emotionally charged situations. By standing firm, I protected not only my financial future, but also the emotional health of our relationship. I learned that saying no, when necessary, is not rejection. It is affirmation of values, of boundaries, and of long-term well-being. Am I wrong for refusing to co-sign my fiancé's car loan? Absolutely not. I acted with care, thoughtfulness, and foresight. I acted with love, not just for Mark, but for the future we are building together. And in that decision, I discovered the true essence of partnership: support without compromise of self, love without forfeiting responsibility, and trust without blind risk. The months that followed were supposed to be smooth sailing, a period where Mark and I could finally enjoy the sense of stability we had fought so hard to preserve. But life has a way of testing you in the most unexpected ways, and our challenges were far from over. Just when I thought we had settled into a comfortable rhythm, Mark's past financial decisions resurfaced, haunting him in ways neither of us anticipated. One evening, I came home to find him pacing the living room, holding an envelope from a collection agency. My heart sank instantly. "What's this?" I asked, my voice tight with apprehension. He looked up at me, eyes wide and desperate. "It's a notice. I missed a payment on a credit card I forgot about. I don't know how it slipped through the cracks." I could feel the tension coil in my chest, the old fear of co-signing nightmares resurfacing. "Mark," I said carefully, trying to keep my voice calm, "this is exactly why I couldn't co-sign. I would be responsible for every single mistake, every oversight, every late payment. This is why boundaries matter." He sank into the couch, burying his face in his hands. I know, I hate feeling like a failure, and I hate that this keeps happening. I feel like no matter what I do, I'll never get it right." I sat beside him, placing my hand gently on his shoulder. "You're not a failure. You're human, but you need systems in place. You need reminders, budgets, check-ins. You can't rely on me to clean up after these issues. I'm here to support, not to rescue." That night we created a plan, a strict budget, automated payments, and a shared spreadsheet to track all debts and obligations. It was painstaking, tedious, and emotionally draining, but it was necessary. I realized that love in adulthood isn't just about affection or shared dreams. It's about navigating the messy realities of life, including the financial and emotional baggage each partner brings. Despite our careful planning, the tension lingered. Every bill, every overdue notice, every unexpected expense became a potential flashpoint. I noticed Mark's defensiveness growing, his anxiety about money bleeding into other areas of our relationship. I had to learn a new kind of patience. Patience not just with him, but with the situation itself. One weekend, we attended a wedding together, surrounded by couples who seemed effortlessly in sync. I couldn't help but compare our journey to theirs. Mark had a moment of pride, showing me the gift he had contributed to the couple. But later, in a quiet corner, he admitted to feeling inadequate, ashamed that he couldn't provide the same financial stability that seemed effortless for others. "I hate that money keeps coming between us," he said quietly. "I feel like I can't be the partner I want to be." I looked at him, the man I loved, struggling with his own pride and past mistakes, and I felt a mix of compassion and frustration. "Money isn't the measure of your worth, Mark. It's a tool, nothing more. What matters is that you're trying, that you're learning, that you're taking responsibility. That's what makes you a good partner, not the balance in your bank account." Our relationship started to shift in subtle ways after that. The arguments became less frequent, replaced by more constructive conversations. We began to celebrate small victories, the successful payment of a past due bill, a positive update on his credit report, a week where expenses were managed perfectly. Each victory was a reminder that progress, not perfection, was the goal. Yet, even as we made strides, the shadow of what could have been, the risks I had avoided by refusing to co-sign, haunted me. I couldn't help but imagine the alternative scenarios. Me legally responsible for a loan that went into default, my credit ruined, our future together jeopardized. Each what if was a validation of the decision I had made, but it also carried a pang of guilt. I wanted to support him, but I had to remind myself constantly that true support doesn't mean absorbing someone else's risks. It means empowering them to take responsibility, even when it's painful. The next major test came unexpectedly. Mark received a job offer across the country, a promotion that promised higher income and career growth, but it required relocation and uprooting the life we had built. Suddenly, the stakes of our relationship felt larger than ever. Could we move together? Could we adjust our responsibilities and maintain the progress we had made? Or would the pressure of relocation and change undo all the lessons we had learned? We spent nights discussing every detail: rent, moving costs, job security, childcare for his niece whom he occasionally babysat, how our routines would change. The decision wasn't easy. I wanted to support his career ambitions, but I also needed to ensure that the move wouldn't destabilize my own life or undo the careful financial boundaries we had established. Finally, we agreed to take a trial period. He would move first. I would follow a few months later once he was settled and our finances stabilized. It wasn't perfect, but it was a compromise that allowed both of us to pursue our goals while respecting our limitations. During this period, I noticed a profound change in Mark. He had faced the consequences of his past mistakes, managed responsibilities independently, and now, confronted with a major life decision, he approached it with maturity and foresight. He consulted me, valued my perspective, and made adjustments based on our discussions. The man who had once begged me to co-sign a car loan was now taking control of his financial destiny, and I couldn't help but feel pride and love in equal measure. One evening, sitting on the balcony of his temporary apartment, looking out over the city lights, he turned to me and said, "I can't thank you enough for standing your ground. I know it was hard for both of us, but you taught me something important. How to take responsibility, how to be accountable. I couldn't have done it without you." I felt tears prick at my eyes. "You did it yourself, Mark. I guided and supported, but you took the steps. That's what matters." In that moment, I realized that refusing to co-sign wasn't just a financial decision. It was a catalyst for growth, for accountability, and for a stronger, healthier relationship. We had survived financial turbulence, emotional storms, and personal insecurities. We had navigated every challenge without compromising our principles or our integrity. Looking back, I can see the lessons clearly now. Boundaries are not obstacles, they are safeguards. Saying no does not diminish love. It protects it. Supporting someone does not mean taking on their risks. It means empowering them to succeed responsibly. Am I wrong for refusing to co-sign my fiancé's car loan? No, I acted with foresight, integrity, and love. I chose the difficult path of honesty and responsibility. And in doing so, I built a foundation that could withstand future challenges. And in that foundation, I found not only security for myself, but a deeper, more resilient love, one capable of growth, accountability, and mutual respect. The months that followed the trial relocation period were some of the most transformative of our relationship. I finally moved to join Mark, and stepping into the new city, the new apartment, and the new rhythm of our lives, I felt a sense of cautious optimism. We were no longer just navigating a hypothetical scenario or testing each other's boundaries. We were living the consequences of our choices and learning how to thrive within them. The first few weeks were chaotic, of course. Moving in is never seamless, especially when paired with the stress of new jobs, unfamiliar surroundings, and balancing our finances independently. I quickly realized that our communication skills, the ones we had honed over months of financial tension, would be the anchor keeping us afloat. Mark was diligent now, making payments on time, checking in with me before committing to any purchases, and managing his credit with a meticulousness I had never seen before. There were moments when I would glance at him across the kitchen table, laptop open, budget spreadsheet in hand, and feel an overwhelming sense of pride. This was the man I had once doubted, the man who had once begged me to co-sign, now taking full responsibility for his life and finances. Our evenings often ended with conversations about goals, not arguments about money. We planned vacations, discussed potential investments, and even began exploring the idea of buying a condo together within the next couple of years. For the first time in our relationship, money felt like a tool, not a weapon. But the true test came unexpectedly. Mark received notice of a sudden tax issue from his previous employer, a discrepancy that would require a substantial payment within a short time frame. The news hit him hard. I watched as anxiety and fear crept back into his posture, the same tension I had witnessed months ago when he first asked me to co-sign. But this time, the difference was clear. He did not turn to me as a solution. He turned to me as a partner, to discuss options, to plan strategically, not to offload responsibility. Together we devised a plan. He made calls to his accountant, arranged a payment schedule, and identified ways to temporarily adjust his budget. I offered support, guidance, and encouragement, but the burden was his alone, and he carried it with a newfound maturity. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of relief and gratitude. All those sleepless nights, the arguments, the emotional tension, they had forged a relationship capable of surviving hardship without sacrificing integrity or trust. Reflecting on the journey, I realized that refusing to co-sign was not merely a financial decision. It was a turning point that defined the trajectory of our partnership. It forced both of us to confront our fears, to articulate our boundaries, and to build a foundation grounded in mutual respect and accountability. I often think back to the night he first asked me to co-sign, his pleading eyes, his trembling voice, and the weight of the decision that had pressed down on me. At the time, it felt like a choice between love and responsibility, between supporting someone I cared about and protecting myself. But looking back now, I see it differently. It wasn't a choice between love and responsibility. It was a choice to cultivate a love that could endure responsibility. Our relationship evolved because of that refusal. We learned that partnership is not about blindly taking risks for one another, but about empowering each other to grow, to be accountable, and to make wise decisions. Over time, our financial health improved alongside our emotional connection. Mark's credit score rose steadily, his confidence in handling money grew, and our joint planning sessions became exercises in collaboration, not conflict. We began to dream together again, planning future investments, discussing potential children, and imagining a life built on shared goals rather than reactive decisions. But the journey was not without its scars. There were moments when the past tugged at the edges of our trust, unexpected expenses, moments of insecurity, and the lingering fear that one misstep could undo all the progress we had made. Each time, we relied on the lessons learned from our initial conflict: communication, transparency, and boundaries. And each time, we emerged stronger, more connected, and more confident in our ability to face challenges together. One quiet evening, as we sat side by side on the balcony, overlooking the city skyline, Mark turned to me and took my hand. "I can't tell you how much I respect you for standing firm back then," he said. "I know it wasn't easy, and I know it hurt at the time. But it taught me more than anything else about responsibility, patience, and the kind of partnership I want. You showed me that love isn't just about support, it's about guidance, honesty, and integrity." I felt tears sting my eyes, a mix of relief, pride, and deep love. "And you've shown me that growth is possible, that people can change, and that love can survive honesty and boundaries. I'm proud of us, Mark. We did this together." In that moment, I understood something profound. Refusing to co-sign my fiancé's car loan was not an act of defiance, nor a lack of trust. It was an act of preservation, of self, of relationship, and of the future we were building. It was the catalyst that allowed us to confront reality, grow independently, and then grow together. It was the test that revealed character, resilience, and the capacity for true partnership. Am I wrong for refusing to co-sign my fiancé's car loan? No. I am right to value responsibility alongside love, to insist on boundaries without sacrificing compassion, and to nurture a relationship that thrives on accountability and mutual respect. That refusal, painful as it was at the time, became the foundation of a stronger, healthier, and more enduring love. And in that foundation, I discovered something far more valuable than a car loan ever could provide: the knowledge that love, when paired with honesty, responsibility, and respect, is resilient enough to survive hardship, strong enough to endure mistakes, and deep enough to grow beyond fear. Standing here now, hand in hand with Mark, looking at the life we have created together, I can finally say with certainty that boundaries do not limit love, they protect it. Saying no does not diminish affection, it strengthens it. And choosing integrity over convenience does not weaken a relationship, it empowers it. In the end, love is not measured by sacrifices that compromise your future, but by the courage to act responsibly, the willingness to support without enabling, and the commitment to grow together with honesty, respect, and shared vision.